Hello and welcome, Hackathon participants. Welcome to a very special segment with the one and only Sergey Nazarov. We have a list of questions that you all have submitted, and we're here to do a Q&A. So GM, hope everyone is doing well. I want to see some GMs in the chat. Welcome. We also have Zubin, myself here to ask the questions. How's everybody doing? Sergey, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. I know everyone who's doing the hackathon is incredibly excited to hear some of these questions be answered, to hear from you. Zubin, how about yourself? How are you doing?
Doing really good. Super excited to be here. Everybody, this hackathon's had so much energy behind it, so it's great to be here.
Yeah, another fantastic Chainlink hackathon, and we are so beyond excited for you all to submit your projects. Remember, the due date is November 18th, so you have about a week left to submit your projects. Remember to commit to submit something. Submit your hackathon projects to the Chainlink hackathon. We're so excited to see what you built. But with that being said, let's jump into some questions. Sergey, the industry had some questions for you. The first question is a banger. The first question here is, let me pull up my banners too. What can we learn from what is going on in our industry today? How can we build systems to avoid things like the recent FTX failure? What can we learn?
Sure, absolutely. So I think that this is a very focused example of the value of one particular type of truth, that if it was provided to people, a big kind of problem for our industry wouldn't have happened. Funnily enough, this is similar to the type of truth that wasn't provided, or the type of information that wasn't provided during the 2008 financial crisis. I think the thing that is happening here with FTX is that it's not an exchange hack. So it's not an issue of security, and it's not an issue of blockchain architecture, and it's not an issue of anything technical. It's essentially a financial markets issue where the balance sheet management of an entity where people had a lot of value in our industry is essentially not what people expected. And the reason we know it's not what they expected is because they did a bank run and all tried to withdraw simultaneously when they found out. So what this is all really about is the value of one type of truth. In this case, the truth related to a balance sheet. So that's kind of the lesson here. How can we solve this problem? It's actually amazingly simple to solve it. We just need to share this basic piece of information. So if the balance sheet and the solvency information of FTX was shared, then two things would have happened. The first thing that would have happened is that if FTX tried to change their composition, the composition of what was backing their depositors' value, to being more in their own token or more in Bitcoin or more in anything, it would have been immediately detected through something like proof of reserves, which is something that Chainlink offers and people at this hackathon can build with and build around and so on. But in making that obvious, that change obvious, what would have happened is two things. The first thing that would have happened is that the depositors would know about it in a matter of seconds or minutes. And the depositors would have done two things. They would have been very vocal with FTX about saying, no, I don't want the value I deposit with you to be secured by your own FTT token. And then FTX could have made a choice. It could have said, you know what, I don't care what you want, depositor. I'm going to make my balance sheet 50% or more FTT tokens. And then the users would have all had a decision to make where they could have slowly exited, right? They could have gotten out of the financial product. And then everybody would be better off. So basically, this is all about one piece of information not being shared. That's what this whole problem's about. A piece of information not being shared. And because our industry is so sensitive to cryptographically guaranteeing things, the right way to share that information is proof of reserves, which is a form of cryptographic truth because it cryptographically proves, or would have cryptographically proven, what the balance sheet was. So right now is a really good time, I think, for people to understand exactly what cryptographic truth does. And I think that's going to happen in this very specific use case about this very specific piece of information, namely the solvency of a financial institution. That is actually what will result from this. So people are now demanding proof of reserves. We're talking to many exchanges in the Chainlink ecosystem about them using proof of reserves, many stable coins, various other tokens, whole bunch of different things, DeFi related protocols, because I think actually sharing this information is now the new standard. Just like when private keys were insecure and an exchange went down because of insecure private keys, and all the exchanges began competing with each other because they can prove something about their security, this is what's going to happen with this information across DeFi protocols, CeFi things, and everywhere else. So I think that's one of the good things that'll come out of this. What we can do in our work on Chainlink is we can help make this infrastructure. What consumers can do is they can demand proof of reserves and they can demand cryptographic proof of the solvency of the applications they use. And what application developers can do is they can build applications that prove things to their users. Because this proving of things to users is really where the entire world is going. So right now we have a problem with the solvency of an entity and its balance sheet. So now everyone is wondering about proof of reserves. Makes sense. But what I'm actually saying is that there's going to be demand for proof of everything. Proof of everything. Proof of your ability to take a gaming asset and control it. Proof of your private key control of your own assets. Proof of how a DeFi protocol is exposed or not exposed to risk. Proof that an insurance system will actually pay the people who pay the policy. Basically, this is a very small, very concrete example of where one piece of information, if it was provided, would have avoided a lot of headaches and saved billions of dollars. This piece of information is now going to be provided in a cryptographically guaranteed form through proof of reserves, something that Chainlink has had live for many years with multiple stable coins, gold coins, many DeFi protocols, and a bunch of others. And I think you're going to see a lot of adoption of this type of cryptographic truth through Chainlink proof of reserves. And I think that this same story will unfortunately play out in the traditional markets. So I think that crypto has now had this moment when the value of sharing this piece of information has become super clear because it's equivalent to the security risk of private keys being stolen in an exchange. And so now everyone's going to be very sensitive to this piece of information and this little one thing that needs to become a piece of truth and cryptographic truth that's made clear to people. But in traditional markets, this isn't yet clear. So in traditional markets, I think we're going in a direction where there will be solvency issues and proof of reserves will have value there. So the story here is like amazingly simple, and it's going to recur. This pattern is going to recur tens, maybe hundreds of times across multiple industries. People are going to assume something. That assumption is going to be wrong. That assumption could have been solved by just having one or two or three simple pieces of information. People are going to demand that information, and the best way to deliver it is going to be in a cryptographically proven way. And so cryptographic truth on that topic is going to become very timely and important. And this is going to happen from topic to topic, from industry to industry, again and again. And that's going to lead to the importance of our industry becoming quite massive, because our industry and Chainlink oracles and blockchains, that's what provides cryptographic truth. So that's what we're all involved in this industry. That's what we're working on in this hackathon. We're working on making problems like this completely impossible. And I think it's a good thing to realize, because we're all very aware of the size of a problem like this now because it's happening. But what we should all be doing as people building infrastructure and building applications is making the next generation of systems that allow depositors and users and society to be safe from things like this. And that's what I think we're all doing here in our collective work in our industry, in the applications and infrastructure we build, and also at this hackathon.
Definitely, yeah. It's crazy to think that all these, the first principles that kind of the Web3 native kind of know, the rest of the world is still kind of catching up, and it's really unfortunate when stuff like this happens. But yeah, love it. Yeah, proof of reserve, prove everything, proof of everything. If you have collateral, if you are solvent, prove it. And like the difference between the protocols that are proving it versus the ones that aren't. If you have two protocols, one that says, hey, we're using Chainlink proof of reserves, we're proving that we have the money, versus one that doesn't, which one are you going to pick? You're always going to pick the one that's proving it. Phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal answer there. Zubin.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that, Sergey. That was really good backdrop because it actually dovetails beautifully with the next question. So given that backdrop, and we want a world where there's proof of everything, and that proof is delivered with cryptographic proof, so we can move to cryptographic trust. What do you think makes the Chainlink hackathon so great compared to other Web3 hackathons? And given the context of the problem that you've laid out, why is now such a unique time to build these solutions to solve these problems that you talked about?
Sure. So I mean, I've been in this industry for well over 10, 11, even more years. I think that we're really at a unique place right now where the amount of demand and the size of an actual market that wants proven applications, a reliable smart contracts, DeFi, all that stuff is at an all-time high. So I've been in this industry back when it was worth tens of millions, to then hundreds of millions, to now to billions, to over a trillion, to multiple trillions during the last rise. So one of the things that makes it unique is that the industry's reached a place where the market is big enough. So that's very important for anybody building anything, is you need a market to consume what you're making. So that's one fantastic thing, and that's actually going to keep growing because various issues with people's trust in traditional systems will lead people to realize the value of blockchains more and more. The second thing that's pretty unique about now is that you've really never had as many high quality tools to build highly reliable, cryptographically guaranteed apps or dapps or smart contracts or DeFi or whatever you want to call it. And the intersection of the existence of a market and the ease and ability to provide security in an efficient way, that intersection is basically happening now. That's what a lot of the top people that are involved in this industry from Web 2 and have come over are interested in. They realize that we're kind of now in that inflection point of demand is not going to go down. Demand is here and it's going to grow. And the ability to build is only getting easier. And this is what happened with web systems, right? You had a market and the infrastructure to build became robust enough that you could make complex applications like Uber, which is actually a combination of multiple services, right? It's some core code. It's an API about the location of the user. It's an API about the messaging system to the user and the driver. And it's an API about payments, right? That's the early version of Uber. So where we are right now is this unique place where developers can actually compose multiple services, multiple Web3 blockchain systems and services into advanced applications. And the way this most commonly looks, for example, in DeFi, is that you have a chain where you write the core code, and then you have a number of Oracle networks that people connect into that core code to do various things. And the Oracle networks can really be used as services, as distinct services. So you can use one of them to get market data. You could use one of them to prove identity about the user. You could use one of them to provide randomness. And you could use another one to trigger a transaction in some other system somewhere, payment system or whatever you'd like, or even something on another chain. So what you really see is a transition from a world where the only thing you could build is what you could code in a smart contract to a world where you can build these advanced applications, kind of this next generation of Web3 applications because you can connect the contract code on a chain with all the services represented by an Oracle network. And there are hundreds of these different Oracle networks that do all these different services in different ways, right? And so that is really what's unique, is that you have a market and you have a unique ability to compose services by combining Oracle networks with on-chain code to make entirely new applications that weren't previously possible. And that's what we hope to see out of these hackathons. We kind of hope to see a few things. We hope to see these next generation applications that compose Oracle networks with contract code. We're interested in seeing different uses of Chainlink nodes to do various interesting infrastructure things and make useful infrastructure so that people can have even more services. And then we're also interested in kind of really simple, elegant solutions that solve really concrete problems. Proof of reserves is a great example of this, like I just said. That's an example of single piece of information, would have had a lot of value. Here's how you release it in a cryptographically guaranteed way. So I think it's a really unique time to build these combinations of services into more advanced applications. And it's a unique time to use something like Chainlink Oracle networks and nodes to combine them into useful new configurations that create entirely new infrastructure and services that people can then use to build even more advanced applications. So those are that's what I think is unique about this time, and how Oracle networks really change the landscape for what people can build. And DeFi is really proof of that, because DeFi is really the combination of on-chain code and Oracle networks. And so that is one of the first real advanced Web3 applications. And there are many more that are now coming.
I love that, Sergey. That's really great, and I it's such a timely reminder of the historical evolution of traditional web as well. Your example with Uber there, and the convergence of market size, market opportunity, all the tools that enable composability in that traditional world, and how that consumption of services drove an entire new generation. Like if you look at the period after 2007, there was a reason why there was this Cambrian explosion of opportunity solutions that were generation defining. So, and I think I agree with you. We're at that inflection point now, and it's a fantastic time to use hackathons to be part of that explosion for the next round in Web3. So, great answer. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Patrick, over to you.
And then, Sergey, you also mentioned DeFi kind of exploding with the use of oracles. We did a bit of a research a few months back. 75% of the top 50 DeFi protocols use an Oracle service as critical infrastructure or as a massive cornerstone of what they do, which makes sense. Financial agreements and a lot of agreements are oftentimes fundamentally uninteresting without some connection to the real world, some way to affect real people's lives and things that we actually do and care about. So awesome. Thank you for that. All right, next question. And thank you all for submitting these questions. These have all been phenomenal. What should builders be thinking about in today's market? And we kind of actually answered a piece of this, but yeah, a little bit more generally, what should builders be thinking about in today's market?
Right. So I think that the things that are still going strong, from what I can tell, are basically DeFi. DeFi is kind of here to stay, and I would continue to take building things there seriously. And even the composition of other DeFi things into more advanced aggregations of various DeFi systems, that's also interesting. I think gaming is going to continue to see a lot of adoption, and the scalability properties of chains improving is going to be heavily correlated with gaming continuing to grow in the blockchain industry. I think NFTs are obviously continuing, and you see more and more brands, even traditional brands, creating NFTs and creating direct ownership relationships for users with these NFTs as like a replacement for loyalty points or something like that. And then also insurance. I am continuing to see more and more people build insurance. Insurance is a complicated, usually slow-moving industry, but I do have a lot of strong feelings on blockchains and oracles as being the future of the derivatives and the insurance markets, which are really kind of two sides of the same coin. They're about resolving risk and risk-related outcomes, right? So both insurance and derivatives are I think going to be big on a longer time frame. In the near term, I think DeFi, gaming, and NFTs are very good directions to go in. And the interesting thing is that you can actually make advanced applications that have some aspect of all these things. So you can make a DeFi application that has an NFT component to it, and that has a gaming component to it. You can actually make these more advanced applications now, which is really exciting, because you can now start to make applications that are superior to Web 2 in certain ways, because you're combining certain incentives with certain gaming dynamics, and then certain financial systems and so on. So I think a lot of this stuff actually interacts, and then derivatives and insurance are just hugely fundamental industries to how the world works, and I think they are gonna leapfrog into how this world into this world. That's what I see happening.
Awesome.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Sergey. Because I think, and the industries you mentioned are just, they're big, they matter, they underpin a lot of modern society, and there's so much opportunity for people there to actually get in the fray, jump in there, and make something that changes the way we experience the world. So I think that's super exciting, and it just sort of perfectly leads into the next question around what advice would you give to hackathon teams that have that vision and that want to take their project to the mainnet, to grow it into fully fledged dapps or protocols, Web3 dapps and protocols? Like, what advice would you give them? How would you steer them?
I think the first question to really answer about a lot of these things is, what is your market? And this has been the question that I've always thought about in this industry, and I've always tried to get clarity on in my own mind. And even the way that the Chainlink protocol has developed, it has developed in a way that focused on the markets that needed it first, right? Because Oracle networks are actually a very general purpose decentralized computing tool. And they're very useful for a lot of things. They're useful for automation, data, cross-chain communication, more and more advanced computation that needs to be trust minimized. So a huge amount of different things. And even in how we're looking at what the Chainlink protocol should ideally do, and even how we're looking at it, hopefully from a community level, is where is there demand for the decentralized consensus of an Oracle network? And so the first place where there was really significant demand was market data for DeFi. The second place where a significant demand was identified for cryptographic truth and these kind of cryptographic guarantees was randomness for gaming. Now we're identifying it in places like automation and identity data and cross-chain. So a lot of this, for everybody building anything, whether it's infrastructure or a user application, stems from the right market, right? You need to have the right market. You need to be in the right market at the right time. That's probably the key factor, frankly. If you're in the wrong market and you're waiting for it to become the right market, I hope you have a lot of runway, and I hope you have a lot of patience. And that's the way to do it. That's not a bad way to do it. It's not a way to do it that everyone can do, frankly. So many people can't stick with something for 2, 3, 4, 5 years to see it through. And that's fine. That's just kind of how they want to approach their work and their life. That's fine. But that's the choice you're making there. Or you should be making the choice that this market is the right market today. So those are that's one key choice, is what market are you in and why, and how quickly do you believe it'll evolve? So understanding your market and understanding your user is a key part of understanding your market. That's the first thing. I would say the second thing that's critical for building a system in Web3 is to provide real security. So what you don't want to do is you don't want to build some application, take people's money, and then not have real security and not secure their money. That's what you want to avoid. So you need to be in the right market. You need to build a secure application that can properly manage the value and the assets and the things that you're dealing with for people. And then the third thing that I think you need to get right is you need to get right, what are the killer features that the user values above others. So do they value speed? Do they value outsized security? Do they value, what do they value? Do they value a certain type of interface experience? So, you really should be in the right market, or you should be willing to stay in a market and wait. You should make sure that you can build a secure system for what you're doing, because if you're right and money comes in and it's not secure, that's not really going to work out. And then you need to be very clear on what are the killer app features. And very importantly, you shouldn't put the killer app features above security, right? That is going to be a very important decision that maybe some people building secure systems are used to and some people aren't. So there's going to be this friction of there's a killer feature users want, and I want to subsume security, and I want to make the killer feature my priority. And if you can't do it securely, you should just remember that if the killer feature works out and you take people's money and you didn't do it securely, you could end up losing their money, and that doesn't go well. So there's a reason it's that order, right? So I would just get all three of those right. You're in the right market, such as DeFi or blockchain gaming, or maybe something with proof of reserves, or something like that. You have real security, and you've identified the feature that users really want. That's like the killer thing they really want. This is the thing that they are willing to switch to you for. They're willing to do this switch for this thing. What is that thing? And it can't be incremental. It can't be like a 10% improvement. It has to be a pretty big improvement. For example, with Chainlink systems, it's basically data quality, it's the security, and it's becoming more and more also the speed, right? So it's these kind of core properties that need to happen. One way to think about this last one is that you want to be selling, you want to be making headache medicine, not vitamins. So the problem with vitamins is they're discretionary, and especially in down economies, vitamins don't do so well. But headache medicine is important because when you have a headache, you're going to buy some headache medicine. So that's like the very generic way to explain it. And so you got to find that thing that's like the critical headache that's going to lead people to use your infra or your application. And if you do those three things, then I think you can be successful. There's a lot of people still interested in Web3. We have a great program called the Build program that people should reach out to us about. We have a lot of resources for startups, generally across everything in the Chainlink ecosystem. And fundamentally, our goal in terms of the ecosystem is to just build a bigger and bigger ecosystem of DeFi, gaming, and various other apps and dapps that succeed and bring the blockchain industry into the future, right? So from our point of view as a community building the Chainlink protocol, we actually want a massive explosion in highly successful applications that define our industry in a very positive light, because that'll create huge demand, and that'll create basically huge value in what Chainlink does, empowering all of those applications, and huge security for those applications, which is what we've been focused on. So that's kind of the three tenets that I would keep in mind if you actually want to turn an application into a protocol. And the corollary that I said at the end, if you're willing to wait and be in the right market by being in the right place and standing in the right place long enough, that's also an option. You should just be committed to doing that, and you should have the resources to do that. And that's a decision that I think people should make. The problem is when people confuse a market that is going to go off today with a market that's going to go off in 2 or 3 years, and they become frustrated over time. Why isn't it happening today? And they're not prepared to deal with that frustration because they haven't made a decision to be in the right place at the right time. And so that's the one other big caveat I think people should consider.
Love it. Thank you, Sergey. And I think having that rules-based approach to difficult decisions is not easy to build, to build products and companies and protocols, and always knowing that security always comes first, and then you build all the other stuff around that. Go for what's really the killer benefit, what's in it for the user, and making sure that your timing is good, or you have the staying power. I think having those rules and stack racking them in your head, I know we do that at Chainlink all the time. It's we take these things very, very seriously, and I think it's wonderful. It's a great way to, it's a rules-based framework for success, and I think it's something that everyone will benefit from. So love it. Thank you so much for that, Patrick.
Understand your user and market. Take security very seriously. What are the killer features that users value? That is the takeaway from that. Absolutely love it. Okay, last question. Probably one of the most daunting, also exciting questions that we have for you, Sergey. And the question is, what do you see as the most exciting outcome of blockchain adoption in the next 5 years? Really general, really broad. What do you see?
I think I see two really exciting possibilities that are spread around two different kind of globalized markets. One is in developed markets. So in developed financial systems and developed economies, there is this consistent problem where there is a lot of value and a lot of wealth, and it's looking for places to go. And it begins engaging in very risky speculative activities. And so this is an example of what we're experiencing now in this FTX situation. And this wealth, searching for all this, searching for somewhere to go, creates these very large boom and bust cycles, right? So it creates booms and busts. And these booms and busts have a lot of kind of effects. They have an effect on society. They have an effect on the average person. This is what 2008 was, right? It was a boom and a bust from a lot of wealth looking where to go. We've now engaged as a set of societies in the largest money printing event or set of events probably in our lifetimes. And so there's a lot of money looking somewhere to go, and there's a boom and bust dynamic there, and those boom and bust dynamics are really heavily exacerbated by people not knowing what risks they're taking. So like today and this week is like a super timely time for everyone to really wrap their mind around this, right? Because a lot of money needed somewhere to go. It went over here. Where it went wasn't clear about the risks. Everyone found out about the risks. We're now experiencing the bust side of the boom and bust, right? Very painful, very stressful for a lot of people, right? So what can we do in developed economies, developed financial systems where there's all this money sloshing around, looking somewhere to go? Well, guess what? We can reduce the risk. We can basically make it so that when people have all this money and they want to put it somewhere, they don't put it in places where there's these huge blowups. So basically the market becomes more efficient because cryptographic truth provides critical market information so that market participants can be efficient participants, right? You share information that's critical, such as solvency of your counterparty, very obvious information if you really just sit down and think about it. And you do that on a global scale across all financial markets so that you don't have these crazy risk exposures that then blow up and cause various societal problems like 2008 did and like this situation is creating for this industry this week. So that is a very fundamental improvement that I think we can achieve in the next 5 years in the developed economies. In emerging markets where legal systems are not very good and they don't enable a lot of economic activity, I'm very excited by the idea of a parallel system of contracts that's technologically enforced. And that will give people bank accounts, insurance products, global trade relationships without intermediaries that basically steal half or more of their value. It'll allow them to engage in commercial relationships the way they have informational relationships with information like Wikipedia and YouTube, right? So if you think back 20 years and you look at the emerging markets, it was like, we don't have landlines in some places. Maybe we have cell phones. Now everyone has a smartphone. And there were places where people were like, let's make a library with physical books. And now they have access to the same YouTube videos that I watch to get educated on some technical topic or some topic, right? So it's pretty amazing what happened with information and information technology, right? That's what the internet was, information technology. That was the original term for it. And so information technology changed people's relationship to information in like an extremely massive way in emerging markets. Now imagine if we had trustworthy, cryptographically guaranteed financial technology, and all of a sudden people could manage their economic life in emerging markets regardless of their legal system. That is a really, really big improvement for a lot of people. And I think what will happen and is happening now is that technology will be polished and kind of made efficient in these more developed markets. And then it'll very quickly be adopted in emerging markets and it'll leapfrog. And you actually already see this in many places where the currencies aren't stable, and stable coins are becoming increasingly popular there because stable coins are a superior currency than their local currency that their local legal system and the local monetary system can't manage. And so this is a very exciting direction for everything, for globalization, for society, for billions of people who don't need to be exposed to all kinds of problems, like that they don't have a bank account, they can't get insurance, they can't sell their goods. Like these problems being solved can basically lift a very large percentage of the world's population into entirely new levels of economic activity. So it's actually, I think in the next 5 years we can get there and we can have it all polished and released in ways that it can get adopted. Look at stable coins in certain emerging markets if you want to see what the early versions of that look like. And I think both of those goals are super worthwhile. Stable global systems and emerging markets that function as good or better than developed markets because they don't need to rely on a local monetary system. They don't need to rely on a local, legal system. They only need to rely on cryptographic truth, and that is a very exciting world that I think we can get much closer to over the next 5 years. And there's a market for that, and the technology is far along enough that I think both of those things can really happen in the next 5 years.
A lot of information to unpack there. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sergey. These have been phenomenal answers. Really appreciate you taking the time. So we have a few minutes left here. Are there any other final thoughts, comments, questions, Sergey, to give the hackathon participants before they submit their projects November 8th?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say that I really appreciate everyone coming to the hackathon and taking their time to build these projects. I think that the people building things in this industry are really the future of how the world's going to work. And I think that we are here to enable you as much as we can, because our goal is to create a world powered by truth, and that truth has to come through your applications and through the interactions that those applications have in all these industries we've discussed. So I think you're in the right place in terms of the market to be building in. I think as the world becomes a place that's less reliable for people, blockchains and dapps and smart contracts and DeFi will become only more attractive. So I think you're in the right place in that sense. And I think that it'll still be a difficult road for people to understand exactly what all this is about. It'll take some time. But I also think it's gonna be massively worth it, because it's gonna change how entire industries work, from finance to gaming to insurance to ad networks to all this stuff. So I'm really grateful to see the numbers of hackathon participants just kind of growing, and the quality of the projects growing, and everybody coming in from Web 2 and realizing that this is the way the world is going to work in the future. And I think in that sense, we're all in the right place. We're all in the right market, because this is the superior way for the world to work. And the question now is kind of, what infrastructure do we build? What applications do you build? And how do we combine all that to grow the blockchain industry into the new way the world works, right? That's what we're all trying to do here. And, very grateful for everyone in our industry and to everyone helping us build the Chainlink protocol and just everyone working on that together with us to bring all this to fruition. So thank you for coming to the hackathon. Excited to see everyone's submissions. And, I'm just very excited, even though there's bumps in the road.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Sergey, for your time, for sharing your thoughts, and for sort of leading us all into this incredible future. We're all excited to be a part of it. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the great job you guys are doing on the hackathon. I think it's getting better every year. It's always amazing progress. Thank you very much. Great to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sergey.
Thanks, Sergey. Take care.
All right. So yeah, Sergey, the one and the only Zubin, every time I hear him talk, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we have so much to build. There's so much to do, man.
Every time. It's 4 a.m. here and I want to get started now. Like now. Totally.
Every single time I get so excited. So we have there's 4 minutes left here before the time is up. So there's a couple of comments that I did want to jump into because we have like 4 minutes left. Somebody said something earlier when we were talking about proof of reserves that I thought was really, really interesting. So I put this comment in the chat. I said, given two protocols, one that uses Chainlink proof of reserves to prove their balance sheet and one that doesn't, which one will you use, right? One that's saying, hey, like your funds are actually safe and here's where they are, versus one that goes, no, trust us, they're safe. Why would you ever use the one that says trust if we're safe? Now, somebody said something interesting, and I wanted to highlight this because this is how a lot of people think. So sorry, not meaning to call you out. Domini, I'm saying that wrong. Domini G said the one with higher returns and easier to access. So if two exchanges are or two protocols are exactly the same, where the returns are the same and everything's the same, you're just always going to pick the one that's proven their collateral. But here's where it gets interesting. If you say, okay, well, if one doesn't prove, but the return is way higher, maybe I'll still choose that one. And to that, I say, okay, well, then we as a community are going to repeat the mistakes we're making right now. And I think it's our job as a community to say, hey, these are bad actors. These are bad practices. We've seen this play out many times, many times. And, everyone's going to have a different risk portfolio and a different risk appetite. And that's okay. People can do that. I mean, the other thing that's phenomenal about like Chainlink proof of reserves is I would imagine that if the only thing, left for your protocol to do is add Chainlink proof of reserves, I don't think that would really affect your return rate in any case. There's almost no reason to not. But if we have this mentality, we're just going to keep repeating the same mistakes, and we as an industry aren't going to move forward. So I did want to call that out because I think that that's important to think about.
And it's a great point, Patrick, because I think it's a kind of Russian roulette in some senses, right? At some point in time, the music's going to stop unless you know what you can trust, right? Even with high returns, there's a problem in finance and philosophy called the problem of induction, right? Like you can, the swan or the goose that's getting, fattened up for Christmas is 99 days is like, great, I'm getting fed a lot. And then one day it's not, and that's the problem with anything where you have to just trust and hope that you can time it right to reap those rewards and get out in time. That's a big risk. You don't want to try and time the market. You want to know you can rely on the trust and on the cryptographic truth of what's underlying that, and that's how you secure yourself in the long term and secure the space for everybody. And the best way to increase returns is get more participation.
Spot on. Yeah. Any other questions from the comments that we have literally 60 seconds left that we wanted to jump on before we jump off? Did you see any ones that you were like, oh yes, we need to answer this?
I think in 60 seconds it'll be a hard, so.
Yeah. Fair enough. Zubin, you want to roll out? You want to what should people be doing? What should people be doing, Zubin, after this after watching this?
Well, first and foremost, watch it again. Because you want to get that juice and that energy in you, and you want to remember everything Sergey says, because he's got such a great historical perspective and projects that into the future so beautifully, which I really love. But definitely like get involved in the hackathon. It's still not too late. Submissions are November 18. Get involved. Find the people you want to work with. There's so many people out there who want to be part of a great team. One way to invent the future is to make it. One way to be part of a great team is to make your own. Find your team, get involved, start building things. Do not be afraid of failure. That is very much proof of progress. Okay. Proof of progress is in the failure. So get in there, put your hat in the ring. You never know when the Beatles are going to come together again. It could be you. Do not be afraid. Get in there.
Absolutely love it. We're all learning. We're all growing. This is what the hackathons are for, to learn, to grow.
Exactly.
Phenomenal. Yeah. Well, again, I know Sergey jumped off, but thank you, Sergey, wherever you are. Thank you for jumping on, answering all those questions. Everyone, thank you for coming here. Thank you for listening to the Q&A. And thank you for being a part of the hackathon. Best of luck. You still have time, like Zubin said. You still have time. Looking forward to your submissions. And we'll see you all in the Discord and with your submissions. And thank you all.
Thank you all for being here. Lovely to see you guys.